So it's a pretty big weekend for me. I've been going through the last 20 years or so having to try very hard to stay present in the moment anyone ever talks about 9/11, because I can turn into the Incredible Hulk, have some kind of psychotic breakdown when someone says, 9/11. Those conspiracy theories are funny. Or, yeah, I never understood those conspiracy theories. I don't really get it. What's the deal with those? So many people have that attitude. So many people that were around at the time are so broken in their heads that they've completely forgotten what happened on that day and all the weird things that happened on that day that they never reported again. And now the University of Alaska put out a study this week that showed that in 5 different computer models, it showed that the only way that Building 7 could have fallen the way that it had is if all the internal beams were severed simultaneously. It doesn't usually happen from a small office fire. Still feels like I saw a UFO though, and no one else has. Studies come out and talk about it with people, and it doesn't really affect them because, you're asking them to change their whole understanding of reality and whole understanding of history, because once you accept that 9/11 was probably a charade, then you have to really question all of your understanding of history. You have to question all of what you were told happened. And so this study comes out a little too late for me, because it's no consolation prize now. After 19 years of struggling to come to terms with the fact that my understanding of physics and what happened on that day aren't really compatible, and I just have to accept it. We got to wake up, folks. This is happening way too fast, and we are all being scared shitless by what I think is a very, very bad respiratory virus. But that's it. We've had them before. If you talk to the real honest epidemiologists, we have them every year. Separate from the flu, but we have them every year. A lot of times we don't even figure out what they're from. This might be an especially bad one, that's true, but they are using it, leveraging it. They are amplifying it in ways that doesn't need to be amplified, that don't do us any good. And I'm going to tell you why they don't do us any good. Because our doctors and psychologists know already that the problem in American society is not viruses, and it's not unclean hands. It's anxiety, depression, diabetes, obesity, suicide. These are the things that are the problems in American society, and guess what this pandemic and our choice to isolate ourselves is doing? It's exaggerating all of them, especially the worst one, loneliness. I mean, I don't know what you want, what kind of a world do you really want for your kids and for their kids? But after 9 or 10 months of talking about how crazy all of Bernie Sanders' ideas were and how we just didn't have enough money for anything after almost a $2 trillion tax cut a couple years ago, well, here we are. They gave away $2 trillion that will be leveraged into around $10 trillion. The bailout in 2009 cost us about $9 trillion. The Iraq war cost us about $2 or $3 trillion. We got plenty of money for anything and everything once there's a crisis, and so that's what makes me wonder, is this really a crisis anymore? They've already taken trillions. They're going to take more in the next months. They're going to try and take liberties in the next months, civil liberties in the next months. End-to-end encryption is going to disappear pretty soon. Soon they're going to want to track you on your phone to make sure that you're staying indoors. The social distancing is probably going to become higher pressure. We cannot give in to this pressure. One simple solution, folks: masks. It's spread by droplets. if I'm an asymptomatic carrier, the best way for me to protect my fellow man and fellow women, fellow people, fellow humans, is to put a mask over my mouth. If everybody does that, like they did in Japan, we will have a linear curve that soon's flattened out and it'll all be done. And until they give us that very practical, very obvious advice, instead of telling us to separate and stay home, they're going to continue to exacerbate all of the major problems in American culture. And as they turn those screws back in the back room, they're going to be shoveling more money into the trucks. Read that Alaskan study, the University of Alaska study. Open your mind a little bit and realize how long the lies have been told to us in order to conceal the power of fractional reserve banking. Our prison walls are becoming visible, folks. Open your eyes wide, take a look at them, trace them out, so that when they try to hide them again, we don't lose track of where they are. We cannot let this become the new normal. We cannot let them separate us from tribe and fire like this. No way, no how. It's probably pretty hard to imagine what it would be like to live most of your adult life feeling like you saw a UFO, but that's what it felt like if you were really awake during 9/11 and you really knew that what they were telling you or you were seeing, that it wasn't real. Like, they were telling you that a fire and 2 airplanes and fire brought down steel and concrete towers in a little under 11 seconds. And then later on that afternoon around 5:20, a 3rd tower went down that wasn't hit by those airplanes and had some fires on a few floors. I mean, even if you said that that building was on fire on every floor, in every room, there wouldn't be enough heat in that building to make every steel girder in that building collapse. It couldn't happen. But that's what they tell us it happened, right? That's what they've told us for the last 19 years. Now the University of Alaska is telling us that's not true. Are we going to believe them? Or are we just going to ignore them? I guess we'll probably just ignore them. I mean, I just want you to really think about that for a minute. Think about what they're saying. That if they make unemployment too supportive, that Americans won't work anymore. That's what they think of us right now. We need to come together and realize that this show is not for us. We need to change this circus, and we need to change it right now. Listen to those words. They are saying that they think Americans will stay home and take unemployment as opposed to work at their jobs because Americans are so lazy. We can't make unemployment too valuable. These are the same people who haven't questioned once, not one time, if giving the banks billions, if not trillions of dollars is encouraging banks to take bigger risks or not to give out bad loans. Or, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that those people have never called into question the banks that they've bailed out for orders of magnitude more of our sovereign wealth? And now they're calling us out for trying to bail out or demanding that we bail out our poorest citizens? Wake up, folks. It's time right now to wake up. The coronavirus can be our chance to awaken, to come together, to break the spell. I know it's going to be hard for some of you. Your blood runs blue. Your blood runs red. Make America great again. Have hope, whatever. Look, folks, it's all a charade. Both sides are baloney. Trump just wanted to be a part of it. I know that hurts. I know that hurts, but look at his behavior. If you throw out all the theories that are in your head because of Q, you got nothing. He's as bad or worse than any other one we've had in the last 20 years. He's doing exactly what the Republicans and the Democrats want him to do. They passed this stimulus deal 96-0. And his only thing when he signed it was that he started what was called a signing statement, as if he might have a line item veto, which I don't think he does according to the Constitution, and yet somehow nobody's really upset about this. And what's he doing with this signing statement? He's saying that the oversight on the $1.5 trillion that's to be given to the Treasury, that oversight's not going to happen. That was his signing statement. So now we have a bailout, a larger package of imaginary cash being given away than ever in the history of the United States, with little or no legal oversight. 5 people, 1 inspector general, and the signing statement from the president is that they're not going to follow that. So Secretary Mnuchin will be able to give this money to whoever he wants to, and he's not even legally obliged to tell you for at least 6 months. But since there won't be any congressional oversight, he's probably never going to tell us. And if you let them scare you about this coronavirus enough, you're never going to find out. You're never going to ask. You're never going to care. You're going to have forgotten in 3 months because you won't have any money. You'll be trying to get groceries, or your neighbors will. We've got to wake up right now, folks. We've got to. I'll see you next time in the woods.